Is the day that many Republicans, many people everywhere have been waiting for. In one of her final acts as Secretary of State, will testify about the attack on the U.S. Consulate in Benghazi on September 11th of last year. She's going before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee at 9 a.m. Eastern and the House Foreign Affairs Committee at 2 p.m. Eastern. Secretary Clinton was going to testify on December 20th, but you will remember she fainted from illness and suffered a concussion. She was later hospitalized on December 30th with a blood clot in her head. She did return to work a few days after leaving the hospital. I want to bring in Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He's a Republican from Illinois. He is on the House committee that Mrs. Clinton will testify in front of today. And let me just ask you straight off the bat here, what's the one question you want to have her answer?
Well, look, and good morning. I think one of the big things, I'm a major in the Air Force, Air National Guard. I still fly. And, you know, one of the early things I learned as a pilot is that your country is going to be there to support you. And what I'm curious about is there were two basically separate attacks in this that happened, and there was a 7-hour lull in between the first and the second. And so the question is, why were assets not put overhead during that lull, during that time when we could have had military support or support of all kinds of measures? And that's a big question I have. And the other big thing is this. We were told immediately after the attack that this was the result of a YouTube video. In fact, I heard the Secretary herself say it. And we now know that even during the attack, members of the State Department knew that, in fact, this was a terrorist attack and knew that there were terrorist organizations claiming responsibility. So it'll be a very respectful hearing today. I respect the Secretary's service to her country, but I think the American people and we deserve a lot of answers to what's been going on.
There was an independent accountability review board that did look at this whole thing. They issued a report. They said the board did not find that any individual U.S. government employee engaged in misconduct or willfully ignored his or her responsibilities, and therefore did not find reasonable cause to believe that an individual breached his or her duty so as to be the subject of recommendation for disciplinary action. Now, you want more than that?
Well, we do. I think we need to ask the Secretary exactly who knew what, when, where was she the night of September 11th? Was she being briefed on what was going on? Where was the president, frankly? What information did the White House have? The White House would have been the folks that could have dispatched any kind of DOD, Department of Defense assets overhead to prevent any further attacks from happening or to save any of our personnel that are under fire. So I think there are a lot of questions. And again, the day after, we were told that this was a YouTube video, and we knew otherwise. So it does leave questions as to what we're being told. And again, it'll be a very respectful hearing, but we do need to have answers to this. And the American people deserve it. It's been a number of months now. There are 4 Americans that unfortunately were killed in this process. And we need to ensure that accountability is held for what happened, but also that this doesn't happen again in the future.
You know, on the subject of the video, the former CIA chief, David Petraeus, says there were multiple streams of intelligence from different sources, and that may be where the confusion lies. That isn't a satisfying answer?
No, it's not. I mean, look, when you have emails sent among department personnel saying that there's a group that's claiming responsibility for this, calling it a terrorist attack, and then we find out later that this was in fact a terrorist attack in a very short amount of time, I'm curious as to why it was so quickly blamed on a YouTube video when the reality that a YouTube video would somehow spark mass protest, an organized attack against our embassy, doesn't make a lot of sense. So not to beat that point to death, but it is a question as to why that was the result. Was the administration trying to downplay the seriousness of this attack prior to the election? And what did that have? Did that have any role to play in the fact that military assets were not put overhead in the 7-hour lull? Whether it's an F-16 that has the ability to see what's going on the ground, or do nonviolent maneuvers that F-16s can do to in fact disperse crowds. A lot of questions that need to be answered, and again, it's our responsibility to get to the bottom of it.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, this is a day that a lot of people have been waiting for, the hearings today. On the House side, 2 p.m., we know you'll be there. Thanks for talking to us this morning.
Yeah, thanks. Great. Have a